Name brand or store brand? Does the type of charcoal matter? Let's find out. We've got a bag of B&B charcoal that comes in at 17.6 pounds and cost us $9.99. We also have a bag of store brand charcoal that comes in at 16 pounds and cost us $7.88. I did want to go over the price of this with you guys, but we're also going to talk about burn time. We're going to talk about max temperature, and then we're going to talk about the flavor that you get from this charcoal. One of the things that I've talked to you guys about so many times is that we love char and we love that charcoal taste. But can it be a bad flavor? We'll find out here soon. As far as this experiment goes, we want to keep this a fair fight. So we're going to use 2 of the same charcoal chimneys. We're going to be using the same exact B&B fire starters, and we're going to put these briquettes into 2 separate Weber kettles. They're both 22.5 inch. We're going to cook on these separately. As far as the briquettes goes, you guys can see here that the B&B does seem to be a little bit larger than the store brand. But if you look at the consistency throughout the bag, I didn't notice that any of these briquettes had a lot of bad pieces in there, and they both seem pretty consistent. So around 2 minutes later, I want you to take a look at the store-bought charcoal. The smoke that's coming off of this actually has a really strong smell. And I'll tell you what, it definitely does not smell very good. And if you look at the B&B here, there is a little bit of smoke, but the smell is nowhere near as bad. And it's definitely not as thick and white as this. So if I had to guess, that would mean that there's a little bit more chemicals, or maybe a lot of more chemicals in the store-bought charcoal. You can see it's right here next to me, and it's all over my face. It's really making it actually a little bit hard to breathe, but we did want to show you guys everything that comes along with these charcoals. So far, just based off of this alone, I'm going to choose B&B every single day of the week. Exactly 20 minutes later, both of our chimneys are almost all the way lit. The one thing I will say is the B&B stayed very consistent. The smoke that was coming out of it never got overbearing, and it was never too disgusting of a smoke. Now, on the store-bought charcoal, there was a time where we actually had to back all the way off. We couldn't even stand near it. The smell, the odor, it was just disgusting. So that's something to think about. If you're going to use the store-bought charcoal, you might want to make sure that you don't have your kids around, which I did today. I had to get them to back off. But now we're going to pour these into the Weber kettles, and we're going to give it 15 minutes to see how hot they get. We want to see if there's a difference in the temperature that they both can reach. Now, I want you guys to excuse exactly how I'm going to get this charcoal in. You can see that my handle here is pretty jacked up, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over real quick and pour everything right in the middle. Now, another thing that I do think is worth mentioning is just by looking at this charcoal, a lot of it is fully lit, and a lot of pieces got really small. So if I had to guess, this probably won't stay very hot for very long. Again, I'm just making an assessment based off of looking at this charcoal. Let's go ahead and pour out the B&B. Now for the B&B, we're going to do the same exact thing. And based off of this, it seems to me like we have less briquettes for sure. And we did see the size difference earlier, so you could see that the B&B was much bigger. I also noticed that a lot of them are still in pretty good shape. So far, this is looking like it's going to be a lot hotter to me. I can actually feel a lot of heat coming off of this right now. Now we got to see how long it's going to last. Exactly 15 minutes later, we're going to take you in and look at the temperatures on both of our kettles. On our 70th anniversary kettle, we used the B&B charcoal, and you can see that we're just past 550 degrees here. On our standard Weber kettle, we used the store-bought charcoal, and you can see that we're not quite to 500 degrees. After that experiment, you can see that the B&B charcoal does get quite a bit hotter than the store-bought charcoal. If you guys are wanting to sear steaks, or you just want a hotter cook, you might want to keep that in mind. Now it's time to start cooking on our Weber kettles today, and we're going to start with the store-bought charcoal here. So I'm cooking 4 burgers. We're going to see if we could taste any charcoal flavor come through, and if we can, is it a good or a bad flavor? So here's the store-bought charcoal. We're also going to put 4 burgers on the B&B charcoal, and we're going to see what we could taste here in just a little bit. Now we're going to cook the burgers that are on the kettle that has the B&B charcoal, and you can already hear that there's a very nice sizzle on this Weber kettle. So you can tell for sure that the B&B charcoal is much hotter, and again, now we're trying to see if there's a difference in the flavor that each of these charcoals give off. Just a few minutes later, we're going to go ahead and flip our burgers over, and my gosh, I can tell you what, there is nice color on these burgers. This is the store-bought charcoal. And so far, I don't really have any complaints here. I'm just trying to cook these to a nice 145 degrees internal. I want to make sure that these are nice and cooked, and I do want to make sure that I can get some flavor on these. Now, on our second Weber kettle with the B&B charcoal, you can see that there is more of a char here. These are getting cooked just a little bit quicker, and that's because of the fact that this charcoal is 100% hotter. So these are both just about done. And then we're actually going to try one of these patties without cheese, not even on a burger. My wife and I were talking, and we think that is the fairest way. After cooking both of our burgers, you can see a visible difference. The one that we cooked on B&B Charcoal has more of a crust. This actually only took 7 minutes to cook, and the one that we cooked with the store-bought charcoal took around 10 minutes, and it doesn't have as much of a crust. That doesn't really matter. We're really talking about the difference in the flavor, or if we could taste anything at all. After we're done eating these, we are going to continue the test, and we're going to see how long it takes for this charcoal to burn out. I can tell you one thing already. The store-bought charcoal seems to drastically be losing heat, whereas the B&B was still very hot when I was cleaning my grate. Let's get right into tasting both of these burgers. We'll start with the store-bought burger. I chose burgers today because I felt like I would get a nice charcoal flavor out of these. I'm not really sure if the way I was thinking about it is correct, but let's dive in. A juicy and delicious burger. And before I say anything, we'll just go ahead and bite into the B&B Charcoal burger to see if we can taste the difference. Right off the bat, I get a major difference in flavor. The B&B Charcoal has a way more profound charcoal flavor, a more profound texture, and that just makes it taste really, really good. The one that I cooked on the store-bought charcoal was not bad at all. They were both extremely juicy, but I would just say that I got more flavor out of the B&B Charcoal burger over the store-bought. And that was pretty easy to see as soon as I took a bite. The texture took over, and then, of course, that flavor. We seasoned these both with Southern Belle. We seasoned them as much evenly as we could between the two burgers, and I can say that that was actually kind of crazy to taste back to back. And the reason I say that is because I was expecting the flavor aspect of this to kind of be the most even of the test, but in my opinion, it was just as drastic as the dirty smoke compared to the really, really good smoke that came off of the B&B Charcoal. And to add to that, neither of these have a bad taste at all. The store-bought charcoal, while it was really, really nasty when it was lighting up, it did not leave a nasty or a bad taste in my mouth. It just didn't have nearly as much flavor as the B&B Charcoal burger. Now we'll move on to the final test that we wanted to see with this charcoal, and that is to see which one burns longer. We're going to keep this test going throughout the night, and I'm going to finish my outro tomorrow. So we kept checking our charcoal every hour just to see how it was burning. When it came to the B&B Charcoal, it went all the way till around 11 p.m. So every hour I was noticing that it was obviously getting lower and lower, but even at 11 p.m. it was still around 175 degrees, which is not optimal for cooking, but that gives us a total of 7 hours with just one chimney. Now on the store-bought charcoal, we started noticing a drastic drop-off pretty quickly when it came to the temperature of these coals. Around 7 p.m., it was already getting really, really cold, and at 8 p.m., I was able to put my hands on top of the grate, so I knew that there was no more heat coming from these coals at all. So 8 p.m. versus 11 p.m., they're only a couple of dollars more for the B&B Charcoal. I would say that it's worth getting the B&B Charcoal every single day of the week. Now, with the B&B Charcoal, the max temperature that it reached was 560 degrees. On the store-bought charcoal, we got up to around 490 degrees. I'm going to be honest, that is hot enough, especially if you're cooking like burgers, hot dogs, maybe even a steak, but it's just something to think about. So when it comes to the B&B Charcoal versus the store-bought charcoal, we're going to be using B&B all day, every day. Now, we are affiliated with B&B, so keep that in mind, but we did want to put it head-to-head versus something that's more generic, something that you can get at a brand like Publix or maybe even a Kroger's. Just think if Kroger put out their own charcoal, that's exactly what we tested it up against. So what we're trying to say is it's worth getting the name brand charcoal because we do feel like it's more efficient, it burns better, it burns hotter, it burns cleaner. Everything about it in this test was just hands down better. So the big question we asked earlier, name brand or store brand, does the type of charcoal matter? Well, to us, yes it does. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you found something interesting here, drop a subscribe, comment, all that cool stuff. We will see you guys on the next episode. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.